I'm just a little bit confused with what you're saying. You know, CSIRO is giving contradictory statements, they misled Parliament, but you're not suggesting that that was deliberate. I mean, when you're looking at this sort of data, isn't it just going to be something that occurs where you might inadvertently interpret information a certain way that it turns out to be inaccurate? Do you think these are just accidents of doing the job they do?
I don't know what goes on in these people's minds and hearts, Rita. We know there's a lot of groupthink within the CSIRO, and they follow the political agenda. We know from a former research scientist, many scientists within the CSIRO, including a chief research scientist, Garth Paltridge, who said many years ago that CSIRO has been corrupted in its prosecution of science because it's been politicised. Now, I don't know whether these are deliberate lies or whether they're just sheer ignorance. I suspect that it's more groupthink combined with ignorance and incompetence because of what they dished up to us. I mean, it was embarrassing. I'll give you a quote from Willie Soon, who's an atmospheric astrophysicist and geoscientist. When we asked him what he thought about CSIRO producing the Marcotte paper as their sole paper after 40 to 50 years research, he said, 2 weeks after this is quoting Willie Soon, a professor, 2 weeks after publication, this paper was completely destroyed, and yet someone as high up as CSIRO trying to say this paper is legitimate and can be used as a supporting scientific evidence is scientific malpractice.
James.
I don't know whether they're lying or incompetent.
Well, so, I mean, I want to come back to this idea of groupthink. Is it ideological, or do you think that because the rest of the scientific community has basically created a feedback loop that says, yes, this is happening, and so the encouragement is to keep going down that path, that science has now been corrupted by what you would say is I guess a preference for papers that affirm this one particular point of view versus those who might be deemed as skeptics?
I could simply say that by saying yes, but I'll go further. As I said with Rita, that there is a lot of groupthink here. There's a lot of pressure in CSIRO to produce what the politicians want them to produce. And they have not challenged any politicians who have said things that CSIRO has not said. We've also had a look at their State of the Climate report, and we'll be coming out on that 2018 State of the Climate report, because there is straight corruption of the data. There is some corruption going on in the CSIRO. A lot of it is weakness. There's certainly a lack of leadership in there, a lack of principled leadership that is destroying the CSIRO's reputation. It was once a preeminent body, but now it's bloody hopeless.
And you're saying that they cannot basically answer the fundamental question as to whether the planet is warming up, or the fundamental question whether any warming is due to man-made carbon dioxide. They have no scientific answer to those two questions upon which all the Paris Agreement and everything else is based on, and all our subsidies. Is that what you're saying, Malcolm?
Exactly, Rowan. And to have a basis of policy, you've got to have a quantified, specified impact from certain things, actions we're taking or we're producing. They have never done that. So there's no way you can have a basis for policy. And so they haven't even attributed 1/100th of a degree of temperature rise to human carbon dioxide. The issue here is not carbon dioxide. The issue is human carbon dioxide. There is no evidence anywhere from the CSIRO on that, and there's no attribution. And without that attribution, specific and quantified, there can be no policy. And even if we do enact a policy, there can be no measuring as to whether it's effective. And there certainly cannot be any measurement as to whether or not it's worth doing in terms of cost. We are looking at our country decarbonising, which is another word for deindustrialising. This is horrific. They're putting in far-reaching changes, fundamental changes to the way our society operates, the way our livelihoods, our lifestyles. The whole structure of our society is under threat here because of sheer ignorance and gutlessness on the form of various politicians and the CSIRO lacking leadership.
Malcolm Roberts, Senator Malcolm Roberts of One Nation, thanks so much for coming on Outsiders today.